Okay? All right, so here we go. The very first thing you're going to have to do. Now remember, they give you 10 minutes to pull one countable medication for one client, right?
Right.
And it's definitely a countable med, and it won't be a liquid, and it won't be a PRN med. The very first thing the tester is going to give to you, they're going to give you a name of a client, they're going to give you a date and a time, right?
Right.
So I know with my 3 pieces of information, I'm going to give one countable medication to John Brown. I'm going to give John Brown his medication on July 16th, 2016, and it's his 8 p.m. medication that I'm going to give. The tester will ask me if I have any questions. I'm going to say no. They'll tell me to begin. Now remember, you can't ask questions once you start the test. So if you have a question, ask it before you begin, okay? So the tester is going to tell me to begin the test. Now I'm going to do this exactly how it is on my Bible. Step by step, top to bottom. So the first thing I say to the tester, I gathered my equipment and I washed my hands. Next, I have to identify the medication I'm going to give. And the way I do that is I open up the medication book. I'm giving the med to John Brown. I find John Brown's medication sheet. So I turn to John Brown's medication sheet. Here's John Brown. I'm given an 8 p.m. med. I find the 8 p.m. med on the sheet, right?
Right.
And there's only one 8 p.m. medication. So it's easy to identify the med you're going to give. So I'll tell the tester I'm giving John his 8 p.m. Ativan. I just identified my med. Now when you take the real test, same thing. If they give you a time of 9 a.m., there's only going to be one 9 a.m. med on the med sheet. If they give you a time of 2 p.m., there's only going to be one 2 p.m. med on the med sheet. So it's easy to identify your med. So I have my med book open. I'm going to leave it open. But now I'm going to open up my count book. So I look on the index and I find John Brown's name on the index. But I also make sure I look at the name of the medication. John Brown Ativan. His Ativan page is on page 10. Here's John Brown's Ativan page, okay?
Okay.
When you look on the index, don't just look at your client's name, because your client may be listed more than one time. And that means he takes more than one countable med. So it's important that you look at the name of the medication as well. That way you know you turn to the right count sheet, okay?
Okay.
I have my books open. Now I have to say to the tester, I am unlocking the medication box. You have to say you're unlocking it. If you say you're opening it, you fail the test. You gotta say you're unlocking it. And I'm gonna take out the medication. Now I have 2 blister packs for John Brown. I'm giving him his Ativan. So I make sure I take out the right medication. So I have John Brown's Ativan now. Now I look in the blister pack and it's full. I have 30 pills. I want to check my count to make sure my count is correct. So I have 30 pills in the blister pack. And now I look on the count sheet, and in the amount left column, it also tells me I should have 30 pills. So my count is correct. I have no problems. Guys, the count is always going to be correct. They do not try and mess with your head, okay?
Okay.
There's only 2 possible reasons the count would not be right. First, you took the wrong medication out of the box, or you turned to the wrong count sheet. That's the only way the count won't be correct. You follow me?
Yeah.
All right, so I got my count. Now I'm going to start doing my checks. So according to my Bible, check number 1 is the doctor's order to the pharmacy label. And the doctor's order is the page right before the med sheet. So I'm going to do doctor's order to pharmacy label. Okay?
Okay.
Now, remember when we transcribed, we came down to new medication treatment orders to find the orders we were going to transcribe? We do the same thing for this test. And you have to say your checks out loud, and you have to point at what you're reading, okay?
Okay.
So here's check number 1, doctor's order to pharmacy label. John Brown, Ativan, 1 milligram by mouth, once daily at bedtime. John Brown, Ativan, 0.5 milligrams. 2 tablets, once daily at bedtime by mouth. I just did check number 1. Doctor's order to pharmacy label. And all I did, guys, I read everything I saw. That's all I did. I just read what I saw, okay?
Okay.
Alright, so check number 2 now. That's the pharmacy label to the medication sheet. So check number 2, pharmacy label to the med sheet. So John Brown, Ativan, 0.5 milligrams. 2 tablets, once daily at bedtime by mouth. John Brown, Ativan, 0.5 milligrams. 2 tabs, doses 1 milligram. Once daily at bedtime by mouth. That's check number 2. Pharmacy label to med sheet. And again, I'm just reading everything I see. And when I do my checks, I'm doing my 5 rights, aren't I? Remember that. So now check number 2 is done. And at this point, I would pop the medication in a cup. So I have to give John Brown Ativan, and I'm giving him 2 pills. So I'm going to take the blister pack, and I'm going to say pop, pop. That way you know I put the right amount in the cup, right? All right. Now, when we take this test, when you actually take this test, you will put the medication in the cup, right?
Right.
So you will pop the pills in the cup. So now I have my medication in the cup, but I'm going to do check number 3. Pharmacy label to med sheet again. John Brown, Ativan, 0.5 milligrams. 2 tablets, once daily at bedtime by mouth. John Brown, Ativan, 0.5 milligrams. 2 tabs, doses 1 milligram. Once daily at bedtime by mouth. Check number 3 is done. Pharmacy label to med sheet again. Now I can give the med. And I'll say to the tester, John, here's your APM Ativan. They'll pretend to take it. I say to the tester, I'll observe for a swallow. Okay?
Okay.
Now I do my silent look again. This is the pharmacy label to the med sheet again. But this is known as your silent look again. But if you want to say it out loud, that's perfectly fine. You are allowed to, okay? It's whatever you are more comfortable with. But I'm going to do my silent look again. Pharmacy label to med sheet again. Okay, I just completed my silent look again. I've done my 3 checks. All I have to do now is document that I gave this med. So I gave John Brown his APM Ativan on the 16th. So I find the 16th on the grid, and I come down to 8 p.m. for the Ativan, and I would put my initials in the box, indicating I gave this med. But then I would make sure I did my one-time legal reference, my initials, and my signature. I documented the med book. I'm all done with that. But because we gave a countable medication, I have to document the count sheet too. Now the date was 7/16/2016. The time was 8 p.m. The amount on hand that means how many pills you had before you popped yours out. So I had 30 pills. The amount on hand was 30. I gave 2 pills, didn't I? So in the amount used column, I have to write 2. But here is where you got to write the word. You can't put the number. So the amount used, I gave 2. I write TWO. The route was by mouth. The amount left would be 28, and I signed my name. I documented the count sheet. I put the medication back in the box. I say to the tester, I'm locking the box. And then I'll say, I'll wash my hands, and I'll observe for side effects and effectiveness. That's the medication administration test. Now, the good news is, guys, if you make a mistake while you're doing this, you are allowed to go back and fix your mistake. So go ahead back and do what you have to do to fix it, okay? There's only one mistake you cannot fix, and that's if you pop too many pills out of the